Hey there, welcome to episode 56 of the Quaggling Sand audio program. I'm your host, Dan Hugo. We are recording this on the 4th of December, 2024, Wednesday night. It's almost 11 p.m. Normally I would have recorded this at 11 a.m. or earlier, but it's the way it is. Today we're going to be speaking about gaming. If you know what that is, great. If you don't, that's okay. Quaggling Sand is an audio program in which I tell stories. So they're mostly me-centric, but ideally they will resonate with you or the times or something. If you're curious, or if this is your first time listening, or both, the Quaggling Sand, the name of this audio program, comes from a term I coined when I was very young. You might call it pins and needles. Quaggling sand, the return of circulation to a limb, for example. Perhaps you were sitting on your foot, you were sleeping on your arm, whatever the case may be, the numbness and then the return of circulation and feeling accompanied with that quaggling sand feeling. So why not? Hopefully wherever you found this audio program, you will find the episode description wherein you will find the summary, which I will read to you, and a couple of links. The only shameless self-promotion links. If you are into gaming, you have better links than I do. So let us begin. The summary of today's episode: some people love computer gaming in these modern times, such that tremendous amounts of money are spent on the development of products and the eventual purchase of products, so everybody's spending money, to elevate the gaming experience to ever higher levels of realism. That type of gaming is not for me, but games are still fun. Ellipsis. So we're not really talking about, although it will come up, we're not talking about sitting in a basement gaming for 40 hours a week. The links for today's episode are the same shameless self-promotion links from other episodes. buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo. And don't forget, there is now a weekly, usually published on Monday so far, all three of the existing episodes, the Buy Me an Update. It's about 5 minutes. An audio clip that I create specifically for posting on buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo. They don't make it super duper easy to find, but it's in the posts section. So there's a link to the post section at the top of my page of profile links and whatnot. It's an experiment to see if it's interesting at all to anyone. It's a great way for me to provide an update across all of my various audio programs so I don't have to repeat it in each one. And it's just something different. As well, ko-fi.com, ko-fi.com/DanHugo, where I will post, or I have been posting, sort of micro textual updates. So as more and more things sort of gel or congeal or crystallize, or however you want to look at it, I'll probably have more things to post there and to talk about in the Buy Me an Update audio program available on buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo in the posts section. Should I should I link directly to it from here? We'll see. That's always up for experimentation, so we'll find out. So shameless self-promotion. By the way, you're under no obligation to spend any money. Again, if this is your first time, you don't know, I'm not really doing this for the life-changing dollar amounts, nor even one coffee's worth. However, some of my favorite beans are linked from my profile page there on buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo. Also, any monies that do happen to fall through the cracks through these platforms, the monies do go towards actual coffee or coffee-related devices. Games of old. I never really got into chess, though I did learn how to play fairly early. I don't remember how old I was, but I was pretty young. But it's just not for me. In fact, chess, checkers, board games of various kinds are all there somewhere. I've played them all. I never got into Othello for some reason. Never got into Go. Checkers is okay. Never really got into chess. Chess is okay. Chess is fine. I understand the complexities of the game. Board games are fun. They're a good distraction, I suppose. I enjoyed the game of life, campy though it was. Monopoly was fun, even if it was a tad repetitive. In fact, all board games tend to be, at that level. They're family games. They're fun at the around the holiday dinner table when everybody's full. Trivial Pursuit figures in there in particular, and many others. Around 7th grade sometime, I became interested in Dungeons & Dragons. I think it was 6th grade, actually. I should write 6th grade. I say sixth grade because it was in sixth grade. In sixth grade, I was able to. Now, there was also some stuff in seventh grade, but in sixth grade, there was one of my classmates named Kerry Bachman, if you're curious, was a dungeon master. And he said, oh, if you want to learn how to play, you can come over to my house and we'll get, so I think it was about 4 or 5 of us at his house around his little DM table. It was interesting, but it required a certain amount of commitment from a group of people. You can't really play Dungeons and Dragons with 2 people. Finding that group was tricky, and I wasn't even a dungeon master, only a beginner. So I was just getting started, and I figured, I don't have the community of people around me that are interested in this. And this interest waned, though the idea itself is still interesting in any of the role-playing game schemes out there. I mean, I don't poo-poo those who play role-playing games. They're fun. I have always been fascinated by game stores of various kinds, the various types of games, the devices, the tools, the accessories, the RNGs, if you know what that is. And in fact, there is just such a store walking distance from where I live at present. I think they may have moved. Their website has 2 different stories on it. I've been there once. I think I've been there once inside to look around. And it's as cool as game stores are. So any variation of a game, of a collection of dice, if you're looking for tables that are meant for gaming, all kinds of stuff. All good times. I should add that in my youngest of younger years, recess at school was all about tag and soccer and basketball and other fun types of gaming, interactive and physical games they were. But those were simpler times, and we lacked cell phones. So, of course, we were doing such things. Tag, by the way, was earlier, maybe third, third, maybe. Eventually, more along the lines of going out and playing basketball, like half-court basketball for a little while. Soccer, I was never really good at. I was always chosen as the goalie, for what it's worth. Going digital. If you are from the Atari 2600 generation, as I am, you know how cool that thing was. From a technical standpoint today, it was a game changer that made the most of what was available at a reasonable price point. And thank you for accepting the game changer when it comes to games. Much to celebrate, even though it barely stands up to today's high-performance realistic graphics and whatnot. I was 10 years old. I will say this game console did plant the seeds of interest when my elementary school obtained some Atari 800 computers and an Atari 400. I've talked about these previously. So I was 10, and then I was sent to use them when I was bored in class. So 10 years old, got the 2600, 11 years old. Go to the computer room and you look bored, because I was bored. I avoided getting into gaming consoles again until I was worked. I typed I was worked. It wasn't that bad. I was working at True Vision in Silicon Valley, and someone got access to a Japanese PlayStation, which had not come to America yet. So the very first Sony PlayStation. And they had Tekken, which is a fighting game. I was totally hooked. I eventually got the American PlayStation and immediately got Tekken and a few other games. They were purely time-wasting goodness. I did get Tomb Raider at some point. I discovered that I was really not... I played Tomb Raider and I think I finished it. I was not really into really long games that required position saves and whatnot. Quests are interesting, but there are better ways to spend time, I found. So literally PlayStation. Hey, I'm working. I have my workstation. I have no time for PlayStations. I would eventually give the PlayStation away to a friend who did not have one. I did get a PlayStation 2 when I moved back to Phoenix from Silicon Valley, mostly because I was really interested in Gran Turismo 4 at the time, GT4, great driving game. I even got the steering wheel, and I played that game quite a bit for a while. However, it did become just another thing in which I lost interest, and it became clear to me that purchasing additional hardware, specifically to play games, was, for me, a non-starter. It's just not for me. I don't even play games on my desktop computer. I could, but I don't. It's a Linux machine, so I'm not going to dual boot into the other lesser operating systems. Let us not forget, though, arcades. You didn't think I was going to be skipping over the real social impact platform in this community of gamers. The arcade, yes, the underpinnings clearly come from mechanical pinball and 6-6 skee ball, and other games of skill, sometimes for prizes, often at a carnival or a fair, but sometimes available year-round at a mini golf site or other family gaming centers, etc. But surely Pong made a substantial impact here. I played Pong in an arcade a long time ago. I played it at home too, but I did play Pong in an arcade. Isn't that crazy? I've been known to walk or bicycle, not recently, but I had been, I guess, known to walk or bicycle a ways to get to an arcade. Valley Fair Mall in Glendale, Arizona, had a great arcade, kind of big actually, within bicycle range, and was a tiny arcade. There was a tiny arcade near our home that I could walk to with a few classics. No, at the time they were real games though. They were not classics. At the time they were the actual games, like Defender and Centipede and so on. I think they had Tron. They had Tron too. Tron was not a great game, but they had it. That first one, the first one at Valley Fair Mall, had Spy Hunter in the sit-down driving configuration. They also had a Star Trek game that you could sit in. They had one of the first Dragon's Lair cabinet games around in the around the area. I don't know if you could play Dragon's Lair in any other configuration, but you could literally just go and play Dragon's Lair at this arcade. It had quite a wait in the early days. People lost interest in it eventually because it was really more of a choose your own adventure than a proper game, but it was a little bit of an evolution. Arcades in Metro Center are our largest mall in the Phoenix area at the time. I think now it's been sold off, and who knows if it's still standing. But at the time, Metro Center, when I was young, when I was basically in high school, was the place to be. There were arcades there, and we would occasionally play Ikari Warrior or Berserker or any number of. I mean, Centipede is also always a classic, always a favorite. They were not quite reliably open there. Sometimes the arcades would shut down, and then probably a new owner or a business would have some arcade games. The movie theater would have some arcade games. So we would, go watch a movie and then play some video games. We would attend the movies on the outside of the mall, and there was a Peter Piper Pizza, which had some arcade games, video games in the pizza establishment. So we'd go play some games there. It was also video games in an arcade setting or cabinet setting where you put quarters in were significant. I enjoyed those quite a bit. There were plenty of quarters dropped in those places. Let's just leave it there. When my family owned a restaurant, we had a Chopper Command, a Missile Command. These were two seated, like cocktail table games, I guess you could say. So seated configurations, and an Asteroids in an upright cabinet, and we were able to play these for free quite a bit. These were not quite so public, so our restaurant was not like in a mall or out in a retail storefront configuration, so it was not quite as sociable as arcades were, which were at least away from the house. Either way, you're away from the home and with other humans. A place like Golf and Stuff, which was also on the outside part of the Metro Center Mall, on the outer ring, was a fun spot to hang out, play video. They had plenty of video games. They had traditional arcade games like skee ball. You could get prize tickets. You could have crappy pizza and play a few rounds of mini golf. It was good, clean fun. The arcade part was obviously the best part, but a little mini golf now and then. It's good. Then the high end came along. So my manager when I worked at Netscape, and I've talked about this before, was married to the director of engineering at 3DFX, which was at the time the company to beat in the realm of 3D accelerators. They didn't really hold up well to ATI and NVIDIA, as it turns out. But for a while, 3DFX, their Voodoo cards were killer if you were in the gaming realm, but maybe just slightly flaky, if I recall correctly. There was always a driver update and always something to deal with. I had my Matrox video card in my home-built Linux machine, dual Pentium Pros though, since it worked, and it worked well, and it had rock-solid Linux support for running X Windows, the X Windows display system, X11, but was not a gaming card by any means, so I was not going to be, I wasn't going to be doing any gaming, which was fine. While gaming has certainly fueled some serious technological advances, not the least of which is NVIDIA placed where they are today in the AI marketplace, and with the crypto mining marketplace to whatever extent as well. Something as simple as multiply and accumulate, the basis for some serious compute and profit, turns out, If you are into games, exciting times. But if you are not into games, still exciting times, but because of gaming. So multiply and accumulate, Mac is what you do. I'm not saying this is all they do, but if you can do a fast Mac, multiply and accumulate, you multiply numbers together and you add them up. And this is how you do very fast matrix operations. It's how you do very fast neural net. It's almost like MapReduce, right? So you're multiplying and adding values together based on S curves and all this stuff. So it turns out the gaming cards do that stuff really fast. So there we go. That's how we got here, sort of. That's an extremely abbreviated account, but that's basically it. The advent of game design studios has been, if you'll pardon the expression, again, a game changer. In order to, I make myself laugh, somebody has to. In order to continue to up the ante and to take advantage of modern and upcoming hardware, and this includes consoles as well, look at the Sega Genesis sometime, the development nightmare that was, or the Dolphin processor and how weird that thing was, or many other experiments where we have to have PowerPC in here, but we need co-processors. Or Sega had the I think it was 6 different processing subsystems to coordinate with, and their software design tools were horrible. And I never developed games, but I heard stories. Now you're basically cinematic production budget style. You're developing these ridiculously complicated and graphically intense, so artistically superior, hopefully, to your competitors. This is crazy, but it is the way of the world now. Could Adventure, on Atari, of course, ever catch on today? No, not without some serious 3D rendering of dragons and castles and intense battles. And the white dot would be something else entirely. Now, I don't want to go into this this is just my stories, so I'm not going to make a intense argument. I kind of touched on this with Jonathan Haidt and his rant on kids using cell phones and social networking and whatnot. So I've talked about this before, but I'll simply say in the context of gaming, I mentioned arcades being somewhat social, and they were in a way, especially since we needed to physically go to a place where other people were. For the most part, people did not have asteroids in their home, hopefully. So you'd go to a place and play asteroids. Now later that would change, and you could get the Atari 2600 version of asteroids, which was not quite the same game, but there was still reason to go outside, even if you were a nerdy gamer. The same is true of board gaming and role-playing gaming and similar, where people would gather around a dining room table or similar. Getting out and interacting with people with common interests, it's a real thing, and people really should do it. And I will say, in fairness, there are board gaming meetups, I guess you could say, even here in Vegas. So there are still people who do take a social step. They actually go outside and interact with other people and coordinate events to do exactly that, and that's good. I'm not so much into that. I've never really tried it, to be honest. I've never gone to a place and said, "Yeah, let's play Monopoly" or something like that. But maybe, costs, but the barrier to entry is very small. Personally, I believe the advent of online gaming to the point where people are staying in their basements or similar, playing online with headsets and possibly streaming on Twitch or whatever, killing people they have never met for hours on end is a bad move. The Gamergate situation is a particularly bad facet of this gem, and that's beyond the scope of today's episode. But suffice to say that the half of our population that was into the gaming at the time took it a little bit too personally when the other half of our population wanted to join in, I guess. I was not around. But generally speaking, there is an entire segment of our population that can escape into gaming rather than deal with actual people. I don't think this is good myself. I think this is an unhealthy thing, and I would have to, to my recollection, I'm sorry, I have not to my recollection, engaged in any online gaming that would resemble the status quo in any way. If I have played online games, it was probably almost like a chat room, but not. I don't think so. I can't remember ever playing any sort of online, intense game. Now, I'm not going to say that playing someone online chess or some sort of a puzzle game or something. That's a totally different thing. That's merely if it takes less than 20 minutes, that's very different. If you're gaming for hours and hours on end, and it's real time stuff, and you have to worry about how fast you can hit keys and that's a commitment. That is a commitment to not being in the real world, which I don't think is a good idea. As VR gaming finds its place, and I don't know if it really has, I think there was a kind of a blip, and then maybe it's regrouping or something. And as gaming technologies in general accelerate into the future, I have to wonder if escapism is going to be the main driver for all of this. Gaming is an escape in some ways, though sometimes it is an intellectual exercise, a gathering point for socializing or any of various upsides, not because of Ready Player One or Snow Crash, but because of people today. I am concerned about people tomorrow getting lost in a world all their own. If you're curious, my games that I play, if you will, on my phone, usually, that's almost, I think that's basically the only place I play any games. Pinball, I have a really nice pinball game that runs on the phone. The phone has the accelerometer. It is a flat glass surface. It's almost already a pinball machine. So they've done a nice job of that. Every once in a while, that's a fun little diversion. I like Idle Breaker for some reason. It's just kind of brain dead diversion. It's kind of fun. It's a fun way to kill 15 minutes or something. There are a couple of little games like that, puzzle games or anything. I've tried games where you attempt to like solve brain teaser scenarios or the box escape room type stuff, where there's like a puzzle box and you have to figure out how to open it, or there's an escape room more classically where you have to go gather clues to figure out how to open the door. Those end up being too boring. They're not because they're too easy, but because I don't want to spend the time. So to me, gaming is between getting other stuff done. I don't know if you heard that, production by a street. It's a diversion. I don't want to escape into a video game with my headset and my microphones and speakers and completely lose track of the world and time and whatnot. And then, oh, wow, that was a quick 400 days online in this virtual world. No, I hope never to ever become interested in that. It's just ridiculous. But yeah, there's a place for gaming, but I don't know that. And certainly gaming has advanced technology in a weird way. When it comes to simulation, there are some possibilities. So gaming has benefited simulation if you're going to learn how to fly a plane or drive a car. And those have probably advanced the cause for self-driving, driverless, full self-driving, whatever, for cars and whatnot. So there are various upsides to all this. But personally, on a personal level, I'm just not a gamer. I do kind of understand the gamer mindset because leading edge and cutting edge technologies have always kind of been an interest anyway, but I can't say that I completely understand their love for it. So I understand the desire for the tech. I don't understand the desire to spend all that time on it, with it. And watching other people play video games on Twitch to me is almost a step beyond in waste of time. But anyway, I don't want to judge too much, although I will. That is where I will leave today's episode. It's a quick one. We recorded this the week after Thanksgiving weekend. So me, myself, and I. So hopefully you had a pleasant holiday and will continue to do so as the other holidays come up, as the end of 2024 fast approaches. You spend your time however you like. I'm going to get back to work. Thank you for listening as always, and we'll catch up with you next week. Bye-bye.